Welcome to Creative Clarity, Season 2 of the original podcast, Intentional Harmony. Season 2 is all about talking with some of the most creative minds I can get my hands on. These people have two things in common. They're passionate about what they do, and they love to create. From writers, to musicians, to artists, to business entrepreneurs, you're going to learn a ton. My name is Katie Warren, and I'm a creativity coach who helps entrepreneurs stop playing small and start living the life that they love through their creative gifts. Are you stuck in your 9-to-5 job? Maybe feeling like you're not good enough to make a living off of your creative gift? You're looking for more? Maybe even wondering how you can start your own business in a creative industry? Then you are in the right place, my friend. You're going to hear me cover topics all about understanding and improving the creative process. You're also going to hear interviews from amazing creative minds, learning what makes them tick, how they overcome creative blocks, how to generate new ideas, and how to get inspired. Sit back, grab some coffee, and let's get to it. Hello. Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of Intentional Harmony, Creative Clarity. Today we have an awesome interview with food blogger, food photographer, and beautiful creative soul, Emily. Emily has been running her own business for quite some time now and is just killing it. I had the pleasure of meeting her as she was launching her website, and we just clicked. She is a perfect example of someone living out their calling, and she just moved away from the chaotic city life to a beautiful place in nature. So jealous. Emily is inspiring, and I think you're going to find similarities to your journey in here as well. This was one of my favorite interviews, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Miss Emily Shield.
Really follow what feels aligned for you. I wish someone would have said, whatever feels right, whatever lights you up, just follow that. I think I got so much in my head. I got so much into is this a business idea or is this going to work? I wish I would have just literally been like, what makes me happy? What do I love sharing with people? What lights me up? And then I wish I would have created a visual of that.
We're going to jump right into this thing. Thank you so much for coming on. I was super excited to have you on here.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited when you asked me. I was a little nervous, but I was like, I have to just do this.
Don't be nervous. This is all chill. It's relaxed. So to kind of just kick off everything, take me back to the beginning. Was there a moment when you realized you were more creative?
Yeah, I would say, well, as a kid, I always knew that I was a creative person. I was always super drawn to colors and anything art related. I loved designing my room as a kid, picking out the paint colors, picking out what photos were to go on the wall, how I wanted the furniture to look. So I always knew that I liked creating things, but then I feel like the moment I knew that I was meant to be more of a creative person was actually in college. So it was a little bit later on that I think just being in the routine of school, it was really mundane for me. And I just always felt like something was missing. I was kind of forcing myself to go into a career path, which was dietetics, that was just too rigid for me. And so I had to kind of scale back at that time and be like, something's missing here for me. I'm not following this true aligned path that I meant to be on. And I noticed too, anytime that there was anything creative involved with school, making pamphlets or anything with design or colors, that was me. I'm like, nope, I'm doing that. That just calls to me. So I would say in college, I knew I have to do something creative. And then especially in the workplace, once I started working full time as a director, the best part of my job was creating new smoothies, new food products. That's what drove me. And I just knew this is worth having the job because I get to create things. Some of the other things I didn't care for as much, but I just knew the creative process for me was what lit me up inside.
Yeah. Is that how you also kind of escaped from all the stress and everything?
Right. I think so, because that was just an outlet for me. It felt so easy and natural for me, and not everything that I did with any kind of management stuff or just dealing with different personalities was always kind of a challenge. But I knew that if I could just kind of go in my zone of expertise and create things that really came from my heart and soul, that made it just easy for me. Cause I'm this is my comfort zone here, is the creation. So
yeah, for sure. Awesome. So you do a lot of different things around food and photography and all of that. Yes. I know that you struggled with some health things before that kind of inspired you to get healthy. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So My degree is in nutrition and culinary arts, and that was a whole nother journey to get to that point, which is like for another time. But when I was in sixth grade, I was 11 years old, and I started getting cystic acne like on my chin area. And so, being like in elementary school yet, it was really embarrassing for me, and it was really painful, and I struggled with that all throughout my teenage years, right? So I just kind of had to deal with, getting made fun of for having acne. And inside, it was like detrimental because I didn't know how to fix it. I saw so many specialists, and no one really helped me with like the real issue going on. And so it wasn't until I was, I think, 17 that I discovered like an elimination diet. I was doing phone consultations with a chiropractor in Colorado, and that's when I started to really like cooking. And that's when I kind of got into food and health. And I saw like my skin change drastically within a few weeks. My skin had cleared up, and I just knew, I'm like, this is something that I meant to do in the world. Like, I need to help people with cleaning up what they're eating, and it changes the way you view yourself and how you feel about yourself. So that is what really got me into the career path I chose, the degree I chose. But because I chose food, like that can lead you down a lot of different avenues, is what I've discovered. And it's hard to like find like the right one for you. And so that's like a journey I'm still on. But yeah, I love more of the creative side of food. I love designing dishes from like more of a culinary perspective. I'm loving the photography. I've been doing shoots almost every single day up here in Door County. And that's been so fun for me because it's like a creative outlet that I never knew that I could go down, but I've been loving it. I'm drawn to all the colors, and then the food's in there. So it's like a lot of my passions all wrapped up into one. It's been really great.
That's amazing. So when did the photography start? Was that like just more recent
Um,
or?
Yeah, so the photography, so I've kind of always been into like the health and nutrition, and that's great. I still really love it. But I think being in school for so long and being in like the classroom style of learning kind of just gets to be a little bit just draining. So the food photography started, I've always loved it. I just didn't know what it was. Like, I always loved taking photos of my food, and they never looked that great when I took them. But I like doing this. Like, it's just fun. So that started honestly like end of last year. So about like 8 months I've been doing that. And it just started with like playing around at home. Just I would make a dish, take a photo of it, or take like 20 photos of it, trying to make it look like the magazines and like Instagram photos. And it just never looked that great. But then I actually ended up taking a course over the past couple months, and I learned a ton of techniques and just a lot more that I didn't realize you had to learn. And so yeah, it's definitely more recent, but then I just pitched myself to a restaurant up here in Door County, and it's been so fun for me. I don't even have to think about it. It just flows out of me naturally. And it's just been like a nice side avenue that I've been going down that I've been really enjoying.
That's amazing. Okay, so you just pitched yourself to a restaurant. So talk about that process.
Well, so I actually do work at the restaurant too. I help with like a lot of prep work, but I just knew like this is what I need to do. Like, I need to just pitch myself and see what happens. I had no experience. I didn't really have that many great photos to show. The owner just trusted that I could just do the job. And it's been a process for sure. Like, just from where I started 6 weeks ago to now, I feel like I've improved so much. So I think it's more about just like jumping in, even if you don't really feel like you're that great. You just have to start somewhere, and you can always improve. You never improve by just like, staying in your own head or just playing it safe. Like, I sent an email out and I said, this is what I can do for you. I really love doing this food photography. I love to take photos of your dishes. It just went from there. Like, I think it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I just drove up and did a 2-hour shoot and had a ton of fun. And yeah, it just like lit a spark in me that I was like, this is something I could be doing like for a lot more people. Yeah. And it just was so easy for me to do.
And having that visual as a restaurant owner is just so incredibly important. And you always see like on Google when you're looking at pictures, quick little cell phone images. So that has to make a huge difference for their business too, to be able to like put it in menus and actually online. And
the social media feed too. I feel like, whenever people are going to go eat somewhere, they want to see what the food's kind of like. And then I feel like for me too, like I go on Instagram or I go on Google and I just kind of do a quick look. I look at the photos right away because I'm just such a visual person. And I know from the photos if I'm going to like the restaurant or not. So that's been really great for me to help restaurants with getting like their brand message out and getting like their food out in like the most beautiful way possible, and that attracts people. And it's been it's been a learning curve for me for sure, but I've loved learning more the psychology of people and why they eat the way they do, and how much a visual of something that looks so enticing literally can decide if you're going to go eat somewhere and if you're not going to. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's been great.
So you're fully working in your business full time now. Talk about that switch from when you were working somewhere else and you decided like, I'm just going to do this thing. How was that experience? Because that can be terrifying for most people.
It is. I think for me, I knew for a long time that I was meant to jump into my own business. Like, it was just more of like the fear of money. Of if I quit my job, my full-time job that provides all my security, am I going to be okay? I think your fear literally goes to some dark places of what's going to happen to you if you take yourself out of what you're doing. And that's a real thing. Like, that held me back for a long time. It wasn't until I had, and this is kind of personal, but I had almost like a mental breakdown at my job one day where I told my boss, I was like, I just can't do this. I am so unaligned right now with my life and with what I'm doing that I just, like, my body physically took it on, where everything in me, every, gut wrenching sign was just there. And I just had to own up to the truth of that. I had kind of a mental breakdown one day where I knew in that moment that everything in me was saying, enough, you need to make the leap, you need to make the change, and you need to do it now. No more making up excuses, no more spending like another year somewhere. Money will come in, you will not like end up homeless, or, all these crazy thoughts that go through your head. So for me, it was like, I just knew it was time to make a change. And I knew at that point, there was no looking back. I had to propel myself forward and just have faith and believe in myself that I can make this work, and put all that crazy fear to the side. That was a huge, huge block for me that I still work on, but that is probably the scariest leap for people who are working full time and they want to work for themselves and they're creative and there's no set path. It is a scary decision to make, but it also, once you make it, it just feels like, once I made that decision, everything in me was like, finally, yes, this is like what you were meant to do. Like, you're meant to go on your own path. Finally, you're on it.
And then everything changed, right? I think it's like,
yeah,
our whole society is built around like having to, and I'm doing it myself, work full time, build up your side hustle until it can supplement the income, and then you just transition.
Yep.
But it is hard to take that much stress, and that, like, I mean, you're busy all the time. You're working weekends, you're working nights to build it up. And I think that is so inspiring that you were just like, I know what my body needs. I'm going to figure it out. And like, we're going to go all in and do this. That takes a lot of guts.
And I think it's different for people. I feel like, some people have like the time and energy to like work full time and then on the side build up a side business. And I did try doing that. Like, I had all my ideas written out. I had a plan all written out. But then I think because for me, like, my job started to get so draining for me that I would come home and I'd have to like sleep. Like, as bad as I wanted to have my own side hustle going, my energy was so zapped that I just couldn't do it. Ultimately, that probably would have been easier for me to like build up something. So then when I did transition out, I had some solid foundation to step on. But for me, I was just more of like an all or nothing type person of like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to just like not have any security and just jump in and make it happen. So that's how I ended up doing it. And I don't regret it, but I definitely think if you have the energy to build up a side hustle, that's just like a little bit more stable. I just was kind of like, mental breakdown, we're doing this, I'm not looking back, like, I'm jumping all in, like.
Sometimes that's what it takes, though. It's like, we all have that breaking point, and you got to make the leap sometime if you want to be completely happy,
Definitely. And it is a process. It's not like I just quit my job and then I jumped in and everything worked out. Like I definitely still, I had, a ton of anxiety, a ton of like, oh my gosh, was this the right decision? I felt very judged from people. And then that causes you to not believe in yourself. And I think the biggest thing, if you're going to start anything, any kind of business, is you have to be the one to fully believe in yourself. And that was something I had to learn too, is like, I can't count on a significant other to believe in me, family, friends. Like, it has to start with me. And if I don't believe it, then why should anyone else? So that was probably my biggest like learning curve.
If I can like put that on repeat to every single person listening, just like hammer that home. It's so true. It's so true. It's so hard not to look for that like belief. It's good to have a support system, but if that's the only thing you're leaning on, you're not going to survive in this creative business.
Definitely not. It has to start with you and your mindset. And that's something I struggled with, especially after quitting my job. Is like, I went through a month of like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I knew that was the right decision, but now it was more of like, I had to own up to myself. I had to work on myself and be like, you have to build up your own belief, because it's on you to do it. And you cannot rely on others to believe in you. Like, it has to 100% come from like your heart, your soul, and like your mind has to like fully 100%. And that's probably one of the hardest things. Totally. I think when you start a business is that's the hardest thing. And once you overcome that, then I think everything just starts to flow, but it has to start with you.
Yeah. That self-doubt floods in and you got to put up that wall.
Yeah. Put up the blinders. Like, nope, we're not going to listen to that. We're going to look straight in and just keep moving forward.
Yep. Did your creative process, was that affected at all once you started relying on it to make an income, or did it just kind of flow naturally together? Like, did the pressure, I guess, affect the quality or like any blocks that you have?
Definitely. That's something else I didn't realize was going to happen, is the pressure to create and to get content out there and to get like all the logistics done of a business, like filing an LLC, creating a logo, like designing a website, all those things. Like, I think it kind of overwhelmed me a lot. I knew I could get it all done, but then there was that pressure that I felt like people were starting to watch me. Okay. So people are watching me, they're watching what I'm doing. And I think at that time I was, oh my gosh, are they judging me? I just felt so uncomfortable starting, even though I just went and did it. I just felt very uncomfortable because I didn't know what people were thinking of me. I knew I wanted to get content out to people, but because I was so fresh and new, I was like, there was a lot of just fear of judgment that flooded in. So I would say I definitely had blocks, and I still work on those blocks of fear of judgment, and then the pressure to keep creating because people want to stay, informed with what you're doing. They want to follow you. They want to, they do want to support you. They do like what you're putting out there. But I think there is this weird pressure that I just sense from, I don't even know what. I think it might just be made up in my head. But yeah, and then that has caused me for like blocks of time to not want to create anything because then my perfectionism takes over. That's like another thing, like another hurdle that I didn't realize was going to come up, is I get so perfectionistic and then it causes paralysis, and then I'm in perfection paralysis, and then I don't create anything. And so, and that one's a tough one to overcome. That's like, again, a lot of mental mindset beliefs that you have to shift and overcome.
If you are having that paralysis moment, what do you do to kind of like, I'm sure you can kind of feel it coming on and it's okay, now what? Like, do you walk away? What do you do?
Yeah. So when I feel that, I have to just kind of go off and like go for a walk. I do a ton of yoga. It's more for me. I need to just accept that my mind is going through this hurdle and I need to process it, but then I need to eventually move on from it, because I have had people, message me or come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, like your photos look amazing. Even though to me, I can see like all these like little imperfections and I'm like, oh, well, this could have looked better and I could have placed this differently. But then people don't view it that way. They're just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And so that's been really positive. I definitely have learned that I have to believe in myself, but then having like little comments from people has been really helpful, because it just shows you that it truly is in your own head. When you think something is imperfect, people don't see it that way. Like, people just see the love and care you put into something, and that's what they sense. They don't they don't see anything that you see. So that's been something that's been really helpful for me to overcome the block too, is it's all just in your own head of the perfection. Whatever you're putting out there, people do like, and like they want to see more of it. So just get over the perfection and just keep putting stuff out there, because you're here to serve people. You're not here to serve your own perfectionistic tendencies.
Yes. We're our own biggest critic, but we're also our biggest support system. And those two constantly, it's like a game of tug of war, honestly.
Yeah. It is kind of like a battle. Like and I'll like literally, I'll go on walks sometimes and I'll talk to myself, and I don't have very many neighbors where I live, so it's been really nice. But this morning, for instance, I went on a walk and I just talk things out to myself. I just say it out loud, and then, it's been a great way for me to process all these things going on in my head, is just to talk to myself. And it just builds up more belief in me too, and to like just keep processing everything and keep overcoming the hurdles and keep moving forward. Because let me tell you, if you get stuck, you just don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And you have to like get yourself unstuck. You have to get yourself unstuck. No one else can do it for you.
100%. And I love that you said you talk to yourself, because like I just had a session with a coach, and she was kind of going through like my block on getting very specific clients, and I was trying to work through it, and she was asking me certain questions, and as I was saying it out loud in my head, I'm like, this is ridiculous. This sounds so silly saying it out loud. And that was it. I just realized, this is crazy.
I know it's crazy how our mind thinks like whatever we're thinking is so rational, but when you physically say things outside, like out loud of what you're thinking, it's just like, no, this is not, like, this is just some crazy thought that needs to just get let go of. It's so helpful to talk to yourself and to say things out loud, because you realize how ridiculous your thoughts can be.
Totally. So where do you go to get inspired?
So I have noticed that I get inspired when I'm like physically around things that inspire me. I need to have my room be decorated just how I want it, with my favorite colors. I need to be in a physical environment like the woods, or by like a lake or any sort of water. I am so rooted to like Mother Nature that when I'm in that element, my like creativity can just truly open up, and I feel like the most grounded, but then the most like inspired too. So I've noticed for myself, if I'm not physically somewhere where I feel like I'm going to thrive, I don't. And that's why like I've actually recently made the decision to move out of where I was living, and I just knew like I need to be creatively aligned and I need to be in nature to do it. So yeah, mine is my actual physical space. And I do things too. Like I look through a lot of like food magazines for inspiration, for like recipes and photos. I listen to some podcasts for some great mindset tips. But if I'm in a space where I just feel like everything can settle down inside, that's where I need to be. Like that's my creative zone.
Totally. I can relate to that 100%. Something about having like a clean house and then a relaxing space to go to, it just calms all of the other stress in you. And yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other things that will come up, and I definitely am one to kind of like see the squirrels of, oh, I should be doing this. I had this to do, and I'll almost make a to-do list, and I'll just do all the things. Like I'll avoid the big thing I really need to work on, and I'll do all these other little things that really don't matter. But then I still feel productive. It's just more of me trying to like avoid like what I really need to get done. But if I'm in a space where I just feel clean and focused, I can get the hard things done. The things that I tend to want to avoid, they're going to like just take a lot of my mental energy, take a lot of my physical time. If I'm in that space, then I can get anything done. And the time doesn't even matter. It's just like everything's flowing. All the projects get accomplished. But if I'm in a cluttered space, yeah, it doesn't get done.
Yeah. So how does you take beautiful pictures. How does social media play into that? You post something out there, like, are you into watching what other people are doing and kind of getting inspiration from that? Or like how social media can be a really good thing for some people, and it can be like a really hindering thing.
I think for me, when I kind of first started getting into food photography, I just didn't know a whole lot, and I was so green that I would take it more as looking at photos and being so like envious. But now, because I've been putting so much time into practicing and actually doing shoots at a restaurant, like I've built up this confidence, and now I am more of like, oh, this person did a great job. This looks so good. Like, I love the lighting on this or how they angled this. And I get more inspiration from it. I use social media more as like a tool to build my own knowledge base and just to get inspiration of how I could change things up in photos. I no longer use it to compare how far behind I am. I just use it as just, oh, this is what this person is doing. And I've also noticed too, like there's certain things that I don't care for that people post and like how they do things. And that's fine, because then it's telling me that I'm developing my own personal style of how I like things to look. And that's kind of more my driving force now is, well, what does Emily like want to create? How does Emily want things to look? Delving deeper into like in who I am and how I want to project things in the world. And that just took time, and that just took confidence building and a lot of practice. So
Yeah.
it doesn't happen instantly, but that's how I use social now, is just more for like inspiration and no longer feeling like this judginess of, oh, I don't look good enough, or people aren't going to like what I'm posting. Like now it's at a point where I'm like, no, I like what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, I love that. I think we as like creatives can get so wrapped up in having to be unique all the time, and we lose the authenticity of it. So yeah, I mean, I love
Definitely.
that. That's so important. Yeah. So how
Yes.
do you want to
Yeah.
be remembered?
I want to be remembered for someone who really went for what they wanted, someone who didn't follow the path that was easiest, but someone who, took a leap, had a lot of faith, and created a life that was 100% authentic to me. That is something I think is really difficult and not a whole lot of people do, but I just feel this inner knowing of like, you need to just keep following your intuition. The guide is inside. And I just want to be remembered for someone who really went for everything that they truly, truly desired.
You are such an intuitive person. Do you have like a morning routine or like a way to kind of tap into that intuition?
Yeah, so I definitely like to get in my very intuitive zones. I definitely know that when I get up early, like that is always best for me. I used to tend to sleep in a lot and be like a little bit lazy in the morning and just let the day kind of pass me by in the morning. But now if I get up at like 7 or by 8 o'clock, make coffee, go for a morning walk, and just kind of feel it how I'm feeling. I just get really real with myself, and having that routine of getting up earlier and then going for a walk has been great for me. And then also in the evenings, I really like to end my day with, well, recently it's been going for like an evening bike ride on country roads. It's just a way for my mind to settle down. I used to work on a lot of stuff late at night, and I noticed that I went to bed with a lot of anxiety of what I didn't get done, and just all the pressure builds up, and then it just depletes my energy. So I also at night don't want to fill my time up with all kinds of projects like I used to. I just go for a bike ride. I read a ton at night, because I read some statistic somewhere where if you read like I think 3 minutes before bed, it calms your anxiety significantly and you can fall asleep so much better. And so I just started doing that. And so I just do like a lot of like pleasure reading before bed, nothing so businessy, something just more enjoyable. And that just makes me kind of feel like I'm still in a dreamy state. Like I've had a lot of people tell me like, you're such a dreamy person. And it's because I have to keep my mind in that state to keep creating and keep living a dream life. And if I'm doing all these things that go against it, I'm never gonna have what I really want. So
Yeah.
just kind of keeping the dream alive and waking up every day with it and going to bed with that mindset has been key for me.
I love that. And I love the fact that you don't load your schedule at night, because it is so easy to just get in workaholic mode and just spend every second
Yes.
until you're exhausted and you have to go to
Mhm.
sleep. And it may work out for a little bit, but it's going to hit you at some point and you just can't do it anymore.
Right. And then you take all that stuff you're working on to bed with you. And then how can you possibly have a good night's sleep and feel rested? Like then you're going to be kind of up. Once your mind is up at night, like you will not sleep. Let me tell you, your mind will keep you up. You'll be frustrated that you're not sleeping because you'll be tired the next day. And it's all just a cycle that doesn't get you anywhere. So
Yeah.
definitely having my morning night routine be more calming and more just low key has really made me just more productive during the days. And then I know during like the day, like the later morning, the afternoons, or like the early evenings, like I have to be getting stuff done so I can, feel good about doing my more relaxing routine at night. And then I can fall asleep knowing I got a lot done today. I did everything I wanted to do, and I made time for me to like relax. And I didn't always do that. And that didn't get me anywhere to just keep going on a hamster wheel. Like it just burned me out. So I definitely learned I got to scale back and rethink how I'm going to do things.
Burnout is so real, especially because like our creative minds, they just don't turn off. You'll be doing something else and you'll get a creative idea, and then you feel like you got to stop and you got to do that next. And it's a constant wheel. For sure.
Yeah. So for me, for that, when I have those creative like sparks or those ideas or those thoughts, what I've been doing too, it's just been kind of helpful for me to keep track of or keep inventory of all these thoughts that come up, because they come up in the shower.
I love that. Yeah.
They come up when I'm in the car, like all these things. I'm like, I got to get that written down somewhere. It just jumped in my brain. So I just take my phone and I just talk to myself in my video, and I just say whatever came to mind. And I literally have, I think, 100 videos of little sparks of ideas that I've just kept. And some of them are just, okay, I don't know how I'm going to use that, but I at least have it like on my phone recorded. So that's been super helpful, because I think those sparks are very important. I think they're messages that kind of bring us closer to like what we're truly meant to do in this life. But I never knew how to like get them out of my brain and out somewhere. And then I kind of forget about them. And I'm like, oh, what was that came to my mind?
Yeah.
I should have written that down. And then I just record it now on my phone. So that's been great, because I look back and I'm like, oh, I don't remember that, but I recorded it. So it came to my mind at some point.
That is so funny, because I do the same thing, except like recording, I'll just put it on like the microphone talk to text. And I have probably 200 notes in my phone that I've spoken into. And I love just going through them when I'm like having those blocks. So that's funny that we do the same thing. I also have like,
Yeah.
It's called shower notes, and it's a waterproof notepad that suctions in your shower.
No way. I need to get one of these.
It comes with like a little pencil, a waterproof pencil too. And that has been a huge lifesaver, because there are nothing like deep shower thoughts. I don't know what it is.
Something about it though, seriously, I've had some of my best moments when I'm in the shower. I think it's something therapeutic with like the water, and like we're cleansing our body. So like our minds are like cleansed too. I don't really know, but the shower is a crazy weird spot where like things come to your mind. So I didn't even know that they made those things thinking in the shower.
Yep. Amazon,
awesome.
like $5, best $5 I've ever spent.
All right, let me write this down quick. I love that.
My boyfriend looked at me like I was the craziest person ever for like having a notepad in the shower. And you don't even, one day you're going to have a thought and you're going to appreciate that notepad there.
Right? Just know this is my process. Just accept it. It is what it is. It's going to make us money one day.
Oh, for sure. Too funny. So what's next for you? What's like the next big thing you're working on?
So for right now, I think because as a creative, I have so many things I want to do with this career, like, food photography. I love doing cooking, like cooking demos. I would love to do at some point, getting more coaching clients. There's so many things I want to do, but I've learned I need to focus on one thing and build it up a little bit more. So for me, I've decided I'm going to work on the food photography. It's just something so new and fresh for me. That's just been so invigorating. So that's what I'm kind of working on, is just doing more shoots for restaurants, working with brands that I really love, and getting more of like the visual built up, like a portfolio built up for me, both on my website and, I'd love to be in like magazines one day with my food photos. Like that's kind of like my big goal for right now. So yeah, that's what I'm been working on, is a lot of just the food photography and also just designing more recipes. I really, I love being creative with food. I'm working with a lot of creatives in a kitchen right now. So I really want to delve into like more recipe development, taking the photos and then eventually doing demos of how to make this food what it is, and making it wholesome, making it with foods that are local and as seasonal as possible, and just like really inspiring to eat. For me, I used to care so much about the nutrition of things. I was so like, my mind was just like, nope, this isn't good enough. This isn't what I learned in school. But now it's shifted to like, what actually like lights me up? What makes me feel good? Is this inspiring for me to eat? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, is just really unraveling more of like my creative sense, and just seeing where life takes me.
I love that. So I always end it with my last question, but before we get there, where can they find you?
So you can find me at beetsandprettyeats.com. It's beet as a vegetable, B-E-E-T. I've had a lot of people when they invoice me and stuff say spell it wrong, but it's it's the vegetable, beetsandprettyeats.com. So you can find me there. You can find my recipes. I'm going to be adding a ton of photos that I've taken, so you get a sense of my food photography skills. But that's the best place to reach me. Or you can reach me on Instagram and Facebook, Beets and Pretty Eats. Just type it in search and I'll pop up right away.
Beautiful. I'll link it in the show notes too, so they can just click right to it. Definitely
Great.
Check it out. Okay, so my last and favorite question: if you had one message to share with other creatives who are kind of in the space of like going off on their own, starting their business, doing their own thing, what would that message be to them?
So I wish someone would have told me to just really follow what feels aligned for you. I wish someone would have said, whatever feels right, whatever like lights you up, just follow that. I think I got so much in my head. I got so much into like, is this a business idea, or is this going to work? I wish I would have just literally been like, what makes me happy? What do I love sharing with people? What lights me up? And then I wish I would have created like more of like a visual of that, like making a vision board of what I want my career to look like, drawing it out, however it works for you. I wish I would have just let all that out and let my vision like reflect, what I'm thinking, instead of thinking about things in such a one-sided way of like, this has to work, money might not come in, like all those crazy fears. I wish I would have put those aside and just been like, what lights me up? Like what makes me happy? And, more people in this world need to be lit up with what they're doing.
So true. That's beautiful. Well, this has been such an inspiring interview. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your process and your ideas. And it's just beautiful. So I appreciate it. I know the audience is just going to eat all of this up. No pun intended.
Right?
But thank you so much. And we'll definitely be in touch soon.
All right, great. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you learned a lot and got inspired to take control of your life. Her piece of advice for everyone at the end is so, so important. And as always, I really appreciate you tuning in every week. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a review. My goal is to bring you relevant, inspiring content that leads to action on your creative dreams, and the more feedback, the better. That way I can tailor each episode to do just that. If you want to be on this podcast, or if you want to reach out and just say hey, you can find me at KatieAnneCoaching.com, Anne has an E at the end of it, or KatieAnne.Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on Intentional Harmony, Creative Clarity.